Sara James, who is actually in New York. You've been watching all of this roll out in real time. Sarah, good morning to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, the only thing hotter than the temperature here in the United States right now is the heat of the conversation about what's been happening today, because you're right, this is dramatic. We've used the word unprecedented so many times, but we really are in unprecedented territory here with this. And it's going to be something that's going to play out in terms of the political ramifications. And I think you can also expect some legal challenges as well from the Republicans. They're already signaling that. But let's go back half a second. The first thing that's going to happen is, how are the Democrats going to do this? The greatest speculation over the last couple of weeks has been, will he, won't he, President Biden, get out of the race? So that question has now been answered. And I think part of the reason that this decision happened is that you cannot sit on that level of uncertainty for that long a period of time. Day after day, not only were the polls indicating that he was likely to lose, but in addition, you were having a rising chorus of Democrats, friends of the president, saying, you've got to do this. So now the conversation has shifted, and the conversation has shifted to who will be his replacement. The fact that he has endorsed his Vice-President Kamala Harris is very significant. I should point out that South Carolina Representative Jim Clyburn, who was really sort of the kingmaker in a way back when Biden ran the first time in terms of getting behind him, turning things around for him in South Carolina, and ultimately Biden winning the presidency, he had made it very clear that he supported Vice-President Harris and thought she should be the nominee. So I think now that the president has said that's his pick, what's going to happen next? Several prominent Democrats have asked for some sort of a mini primary. Exactly what that looks like, well, we don't know because we've never been here. A couple of other options would be a brokered convention or an open convention. Now, remember, all these delegates have been pledged. So, how does this happen? One thing, though, that I want to say that I think is really important: there is no reason why you can't figure this stuff out at a convention. That's what's happened throughout history. That's how this was done in the old days. So I think the Democrats are going to be saying, look, there's nothing wrong with us making a decision at the convention and buttoning this up. And that's going to be what they say. So exactly how that works out, well, it's going to be the most exciting convention that we have seen in a very long time this summer.
The conversation now, Sarah, moves to Kamala Harris, her credentials, her time as Vice President, whether or not Democrats believe she can take on Trump. What are the arguments sort of for and against at the moment?
Well, I think the biggest argument for is the very one that the president said, which is, she's been my vice president. He gave her a ringing endorsement. He said she's done a great job. And it was my best decision in choosing her as my vice presidential running mate, and I'm putting my support behind her. So that's the president saying, I support my vice president. She is the first woman of color to be vice president of the United States, the first woman to be vice president of the United States. That's historic. And again, it would be historic as she runs into the race for the presidency. So that could get some excitement behind her candidacy. Some Democrats have expressed some concern because her poll numbers at this moment are not as high as perhaps some of the other candidates that you might see their names bandied about, people like Governor Newsom in California or Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. But I think what will be really important here is, what do the other presidential potential contenders do and say? There are a few little factions at the moment. Do they very quickly come into kind of a formation behind one person, or does this get more complicated and a lot of duking it out, if you will, at the convention? The Democrats are going to, let me back up a second. The Republicans in their convention looked enormously coordinated in everything they were doing. They really had come together. And again, behind a nominee who has problems of his own, as we talked about on this program. But boy, did they look together at their convention. What the Democrats are going to have to do is to try to create a narrative that this is democracy at its finest, coming together, having this discussion. If they can do that, then they're in very positive turf. If it turns into a food fight, well, then obviously that will be a very different narrative.
Sara James, absolutely fascinating time in American history. Really appreciate you being part of our program this morning. No doubt we'll be talking again. Thanks, Sara.
Always my pleasure.